Hello and welcome to Finextra. I'm Emily Horler and I'm here with John Mason of Thomson Reuters, and we're discussing the upcoming EU directive MiFID II. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, Emily.
Looking at the bigger picture, what do you think the main challenges MiFID II presents are?
I think the main challenges of MiFID II are, first and foremost, its sheer scale to the organisation. If we looked at regulations in the past, such as Solvency II or AIFMD, they've addressed quite specific areas of financial services. MiFID II addresses all areas of financial services. So I think there's a sheer scale and the sheer invasive nature of MiFID II which provides substantial challenges. Beyond that, we get into the challenge of data that it brings, how organisations source the additional data, the new trading venues and the new markets that are being created as a consequence of MiFID II. That means more data needs to be brought into the infrastructure. It needs to be absorbed into organisational feeds such as ours for aggregation so that the market can then utilise it. So although that brings certain benefit, there's no doubt that's a huge challenge to be able to source all of that data, aggregate that data and then distribute that data throughout the marketplace. So I think that, and then as I touched on, the sheer scale of MiFID II and the sheer number of areas within financial services that it addresses provide the major challenges that we have to wrestle with.
Do you think the buy side realises that it has to get ready and comply with the requirements that are proposed?
I think the buy side is certainly becoming aware and realising perhaps more of the implications of MiFID II. I think to begin with there was perhaps a view in the buy side, certainly not all buy sides, but I think with some elements of the buy side, that their service providers in the sell side would be the ones who would be responsible for meeting the MiFID II obligations in terms of transaction reporting, delegated authorities, those sorts of things. I think it's beginning to dawn on the buy side now that MiFID II is more than just reporting, and there are implications as to whether the buy side is dealing with a systematic internalizer in a given security or not, for example. Those are implications that are on the buy side. They're not necessarily on the broker or on the broker-dealer who's on the other side of that particular trade. They may say, I'm not a systematic internalizer for a security, well then the obligation is back on the buy-side company to report if they're the seller. And I think it's now beginning to dawn on the buy side just what those ramifications are as far as what's specific to them. Whereas I think perhaps 8 or 9 months ago, it was still felt the sell side was perhaps going to be the provider of all of their MiFID services. I don't think that's any longer the case.
So looking ahead, what do you think the market will look like after MiFID II comes into force?
Well, we have an element of precedent, of course, with MiFID and the impact that it had on the equity markets. I think there's no question MiFID II was very much focused towards the more opaque dark pool markets, the non-equity markets. There's no question that those dark pools will now, if you like, become lit pools of data within a post-MiFID environment. The transparency around those non-equity markets, the fixed income, the FX, the specific OTC markets is going to be much greater. And I think that will have knock-on benefits to the industry, not just in terms of MiFID, but other regulations that we're looking at, such as FRTB, that will benefit from the extra transparency that MiFID brings.
John, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And thank you for watching.